Cool. Okay, I think it's recording. Okay, so hello, welcome to week 2 of this course. Um, Today we're going to be going over a couple different things today, building off of what we learned from last week. The main thing we're going to be working on is, enhancing our sketching skills. So last week we began on sketches, making, very basic shapes. Um, Bless you. Uh, and now we're gonna kind of go deeper into that and learn more. So, intermediate design skills. So I touched a little bit about this on week 1. You heard me talking about geometric constraints. So we did a lot of dimensional constraints for week 1, just to simplify things. But you saw me use a couple of geometric constraints to give you a sneak peek of what we're doing today. So geometric constraints are just kind of in the name. You're using geometry to define whatever thing that you're drawing. So, if you're taking a geometry course, you've probably familiar with parallel and perpendicular and tangent, but there's also a bunch of other geometric constraints that are available to you. Um, and the reason why we use geometric constraints is that it can really simplify our sketches visually, just because, if we want something to be shaped in a general way, but we want maybe, let's say, 1 or 2 adjustment points, we can use geometric constraints to lock certain elements down, and then just focus on what we really want to be adjustable. So, yeah. So here's a couple of you know, constraints that are available to you in Fusion. We have a couple slides going over them, and then we're going to be doing an assignment. Um, at least for me, there's some that I prefer over others, and I'll kind of go over them now. Um, I personally use like coincident, collinear, concentric, uh, midpoint, parallel, perpendicular. These are all like pretty like basic things. Like you're going to be using them a lot if you're going to be drawing funny sketches. Um, and they kind of tell you what they do say. So coincident is basically taking one point and having it snap onto another. And it's useful for, let's say you're drawing a line and you want, you know, the end of the line to be connected to part of another line. You can like select that point and then the line, and then it'll snap together. Collinear is kind of self-explanatory. It's just like taking 2 lines and then having them run along the same axis. So that's what collinear is. Concentric is like this uh, similar, but for like arcs and circles. So if you want the circles to be centered on the same point, you're going to be using the concentric tool. Midpoint is cool if you want like something to be in the center of a line, for example. The fix and unfix is available, but I like to stress that you shouldn't be using this unless it's like absolutely necessary. Um, Basically, it just will take a point in space, and then it'll just define it as in it can't move at all. But usually you can use other geometric constraints to properly constrain it, because if you use the fixed constraint, um, there's no like math or anything behind it. You're just picking a random point in space and it's kind of imprecise. So that's why I generally don't encourage you to use it. Parallel and perpendicular are also self-explanatory. I'd assume that you kind of know what that is, but we'll be going over everything as well. Um, these are some things that you might be thinking about as well. Horizontal and vertical is very nice. If you didn't like, let's say, draw a line that's slightly skewed, but you want it to, be locked in one way. Again, all of these are all kind of self-explanatory. Tangent is good with circles and lines. we used that last week with the game piece when that diagonal line was connecting to the arc. So you can use it for arcs and circles and all that good stuff. Equals also very useful just because, making two things the same and symmetry. So we have a little assignment for you, and I'm going to be going over a couple of these, plus like, going over how all the constraints work again. So if you want to open up Fusion, you can see in the Discord here under resources, I've attached I've attached the file for you to open. So I'm going to open Fusion now, and let's just get started. Has anyone who's new this week had issues installing Fusion? Because sometimes it doesn't work super well, or the installation can get kind of messy. So it would be great if you could tell us you're having issues so we can try and help you. Okay. So with Fusion open, I'm going to open up the design. One thing you can do is you can upload a file onto Fusion. So I opened the data panel up here with the little square of 9 squares. I can click upload, select file, go into my downloads. It'll put it here. You just press upload. Sometimes the window moves around in a weird way, but for me, it was okay. So we're going to open it up, just double clicking over here on the left. And then I'm going to hide the data panel so you can see. So we're back in our workspace for Fusion. You can see we have like this canvas. You don't have an upload button when you click the data panel. Okay, well, if you don't, it'll probably be because you haven't made a project yet. So if you want to make a project, I would recommend that. For me, I just kind of section them in all the sessions I teach, but you can name it whatever you like. So if you make one and double click it, that's probably um, why. So again, we're in our workspace again. You can see that we already have some stuff here. It's because you should be opening this file that I've uploaded. And we're going to be editing this file just to practice the different constraints. So you can see down here is your timeline, and it basically goes over all the things that you know happened to get to this point in the design. You can see there's a canvas here that we'll get into canvases in a future class, but then you'll see that there's a sketch here. There's also a plane, but I think it's broken. So we want to edit this sketch, right? So we want to make changes to these lines and circles here. So to do that, we have to open up the sketch to edit it, right? So currently we're exited from the sketch. We can see it, but if we tried to do something, it's not gonna stay the way we want it to. So you can go down in the timeline here, right click and click edit sketch, or you can also go up here on the left side. You can open up the sketches folder and edit the sketch from here. So once we enter the sketch editing mode, you can see the toolbar changes again, just like we're making a sketch, and we have a bunch of tools up here. So last week we kind of went over some of these over here, creating rectangles and circles and trimming things away. But now we're going to be going more into the constraints, which are these red icons over here. So these aren't all the constraints. You can see down here, there's a drop down with all the rest of them. And we're going to be using them to define things in space. So I was talking a lot about making lines black. And this is kind of one of the ways you make lines black. And making the lines and circles black means that they're fully defined. Unfortunately, in this case, a lot of these are just kind of floating arbitrarily, so these will not turn black, but you will see in the other things we do today, we can use geometric constraints to make it how we like. So again, I'm in the sketch. Is everyone in the sketch?
I'll get headphones, don't worry. Oh, you good.
Okay.
Ryan, could you mute up, please?
All right. So we're here on our sketch, and you can see, we can read the text above it, and it'll basically tell us what to do. So for this first one here in the top right, it tells us to make these two lines perpendicular, right? So right now, this isn't constrained perpendicularly. So to change that, we can go over here and we see the perpendicular tool. We can click it and click this line and this line, and boom, there we go. You can see that if you do that, Fusion will like continually like hold down the perpendicular tool. So if you were to like click two other lines, they would become perpendicular as well. Generally, you kind of have to press escape or another tool to change it. You could also do the reverse by just holding shift, selecting both lines, and then applying the constraint. Okay, how did he get the sketch button? Okay, you need to open the sketch. So you can either go up here in the top left, right click and edit the sketch, or you can go into the timeline and find the sketch here, which happens to be the third one. But yeah, you need to enter the sketch to edit this. So we've done this first one. Now for the second one, it says make all three lines parallel to one another. Again, just going up here, selecting the tool, in this case parallel, and then we're just clicking on two lines. You can see these two are parallel, and now when I click these two, now all of them are parallel to each other. All right, so I'll do one more, and then I'll let everyone loose, and then you can see if you can figure out the rest of them. So this one can be a little bit tricky. We're going to use a combination of dimensional constraints and the fixed constraint, which isn't quite my favorite, but you'll see. So we have three circles here. It says to dimension circle number 3 to 2 inches, fix circles 1 and 2, and then make 3 tangent to 1 and 2. So I'm going to first start with the dimension. So up here, I'm going to use the sketch dimension tool like we used last week. Oh, okay. So you'll see sometimes if I have another point selected, it'll try to dimension things like this. That's why I generally like to press escape a couple times before going into a tool, just to make sure I haven't selected anything else. So I'm going to make this 2 and press escape. So now that I'm out of the tool, I'm going to pick another tool. In this case, I'm going to fix circles 1 and 2. So I'm going to click the fix tool, and I'm going to fix that.
Oh, that's it.
And I'm going to fix number 2. And you can see when you fix something, it turns like kind of like this yellowish green.
That's crazy.
Sweet. Okay. You'll see that it kind of turns like this yellowish color, and that's to signify that it's fixed. And again, it won't turn black because it's fixed and it's not really constrained by anything other than you're just saying that you want it to be like that. So that's kind of why I don't like it, but I'm going to teach you how to use it if you really, really need it. So yeah, we have two fixed circles, and then we're going to make this last one tangent to those two. So I'm going to just press escape, make sure I'm not in any of them, and then I'm going to go into the tangent tool up here. So tangent, I want it to be tangent to 1 and 2 and to 2. So I'm going to click both of them. And now you can see, because these two circles are fixed, and this is dimensioned like um, like with its diameter, it's fully constrained because these two fixed circles aren't letting this one move. But again, if you constrain these properly from like the origin or something, then this circle would also be black and fully constrained. But yeah, I guess I'll just do one more, and then I'll let everyone loose. What did I do to constrain them? Or do I need the fixed constraint for the third one? Yes, you do.
Because my professor says the exact.
Yeah, my professor does too. Yes, you do want this dimension to be 2, because that's what it says. So I can run it back. So again, fixed circles 1 and 2 make 3 tangent to 1 and 2. So I already dimensioned it, dimension 3 to 2. I'm going to fix it with this lock icon. I fix 1 and 2. They change colors. And then I'm going to make them tangent by clicking tangent. I'm going to click 3 and click 1. And then click 2 and 3. This one is more tangent stuff, so make the circle tangent to both lines. I'm already in the tangent tool up here, so I'm just going to click the circle and the line, and then here and there, and sweet. So I'll give you maybe like 15 minutes to do the next 8, and then if you're having trouble with it, I can run you through it. So yeah, I'll start again at around 6:10. And again, if you have any questions, just holler at me because I will just be like sitting here unless you do.
How did you do the thing where you got like 3 equal to 2 or whatever? It says like dim number 3 to, I don't know what Greek symbol that is, 2.
Okay, so the symbol right before the 2 is basically denoting like 2-inch diameter. So that's the diameter symbol. So instead of going on these red icons, we're going to the sketch dimension tool, which is over here by like the circle and rectangle stuff. So you just use that. I'll do it again. I'm going to delete that. You can see once I've deleted it, I can make it bigger or smaller. But once I go into the sketch dimension up here, I'm going to make sure it's unselected. So I'm in the tool. I just click the circle, drag it out, click again, and then I specify the diameter. Oh, oops. 20,
Got it.
2. Oh, yes, you can. As long as you're using the other tools that it specifies.
Andrew, um, did you get this sketch from the slide set or somewhere else?
The sketch is in the Discord. So if you go under resources, it's under assignment for geometric constraints.
Okay.
What is the last part asking?
Okay. So line up the centers of the circles on the same horizontal plane. So for this, I've seen people do it a number of ways. Some people have drawn like a line and then made this line horizontal and then made the centers all coincident to the circle. Technically making all of them concentric is right too. Yeah, does that explain it? Okay. Please do the fifth one. By fifth
Yeah,
one,
no, sorry.
is it this make circles concentric?
No, it's the one about the coincident points.
Coincident?
The one on the left of that.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, fix point C, make endpoints A and B coincident with point C. So, I'm just gonna say, okay, A is kind of placed badly, but B, let's say B is this endpoint on the line here, and let's say A is this endpoint on the line down here. So we're gonna fix point C. So we're gonna make sure C doesn't move, and then we're gonna make A and B fly into that. So I'm gonna fix point C just like that. You can see I clicked the center of the circle and not the outer edge of the circle. So I can actually still resize it. And then we're making the endpoints coincident with point C. So up here is the coincident tool. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click on this point on A, center of the circle, and then this point on B, and then the center. That should work.
Thanks.
If you did like steps a while ago, is there a way to undo it, or do I have to undo all my work?
So yeah, you kind of have to spam like Control Z or Command Z. Sometimes you can view the constraints and like delete them. But like it's kind of annoying because they're not always visible. I'm honestly not sure why, but like sometimes it's just annoying.
Okay.
Typically, when I'm designing something myself, if I've added like a bunch of constraints that I didn't end up liking, sometimes it's faster to just like delete like a line or delete some part of it and then redraw it and then add new constraints. So yeah, that might be a useful tip on the homework tonight if you're having trouble.
Can you go through how to set up the diameter of the circle again?
Yeah, to do the diameter of the circle on this one, you use the sketch dimension tool like from last week. So you just click on it, click on the circle. I'm just gonna click on this one, drag it out, and then specify.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the best way to move things?
So if you just like spam like escape and just use your mouse to select things, you should be able to drag things that aren't constrained. So you'll see that like even though these two lines are perpendicular, they're not constrained in space, so I can like move them around.
Okay.
Sometimes like they don't move in the way you want them to, but that's just kind of how it is, and you'll get used to it. You can kind of predict which way things will go as you CAD more.
Wait, but when I do that, it just starts like making like a highlight box off of them.
A highlight box.
Yeah.
Are
Like
you
it's making a box and I left click.
in the sketch?
Yes.
Do you think you can like send a screenshot to the Discord so I can see?
Yeah. Actually, wait, do you know what the shortcut is for screenshotting on Windows?
Windows Shift S.
Let's see.
I can't seem to find the button. I think I'm a little lost.
Which buttons?
To do the diameter. Sorry.
To do the dimensions?
Yeah,
Okay. And you're in the sketch, right?
I am, yeah.
Because the constraints should be up here on the top.
Well,
Sometimes
it's hidden for me, that's why. Okay.
is the whole thing gone? Or is it
Uh,
just the constraints?
because I'm not in full. Maybe I should be in. Okay, I see it now.
Yeah. If you can't see it in full screen, sometimes there's like a small drop down.
Mhm.
And you can click on like constraints. Here, let me try to
Thank
do
you,
it.
sorry.
No, you're good. Let's try this one. No, it's not letting me do this one. Yeah, so sometimes you don't have all of them, but you can still utilize the drop downs.
My issue just randomly went away, so I'm good.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, sometimes like spamming like the escape button helps, because sometimes you might be in a tool that like you didn't know that you were in. Okay, so if you want to add music, then you can probably add it there, and then we'll play it later today when we do stuff. So it's 6:12, so I'm gonna start just move on. If you didn't finish this, no worries, you can do it later. Or you can stick around after and I can help you out. But yeah, let's just get started on the next one. So for this next one, we're going to be making a gear. You know, gears are pretty cool. We use them in a lot of engineering applications. And it's also quite nice because I'll show you a couple more techniques that you can have in your back pocket when making things. Mainly the circular pattern and the mirror tool is going to be used, and I use that a ton. So let's just get started. Okay, so I'm making a new design. So I just clicked up here on the top right, and we have a blank workspace. So now we can make our gear. So you'll see here, this is just kind of a general idea of what our sketch is going to look like when we're finished. You see there's no hole here, so we're going to add that later. But we first are just going to start with this circle, and then we're going to create a tooth, and then we're going to copy the tooth many, many times. So the cool thing about CAD is that you can have the program do a lot of the work for you, and that will save yourself time, but it can also save you or someone else's time later on if you need to edit something. So I kind of like stress on like the importance of like quote unquote like clean CAD, and it's just kind of to make sure that you keep things readable. So yeah, readable and easy to change later. So I'm going to create a sketch just like we did last week on the top left, this button. I'm going to select a plane. I'm just choosing the top plane here. And we're going to start making our gear. So I'm going to first start with a circle. I'm starting from the origin because I want it to be fully defined, or the origin's the only fully defined point in our first sketch. So I made a circle. I'm going to add a dimension. Let's just make this 100 today, shall we? Okay, cool. So you can see this circle is fully defined. It's a nice place to start from. And now we're going to create our gear profile. So you can see from this gear here that if you look at one tooth, it's like symmetrical along the center. So what we're going to do is we're going to design half of a tooth. We're going to copy that half, and then we're going to mirror that half and then pattern it. So to do that, I'm gonna first start by making a line. I'm gonna drag it out from the center. I'm gonna go across and then down. So we kind of have a general idea of what we want for our gear. I'm gonna make this line a construction line just so it's clear. So if you don't know how to make a construction line, it's right here, and it'll become dashed. And again, the construction lines are ignored by Fusion when you go to extrude it and stuff. So I'm leaving it construction because we're going to mirror it. So now that we have our lines out there, we can
I missed that.
dimension.
Wait, how do you put a construction line? Sorry.
Oh yeah, no problem. So you can click on the line and then just click construction over here on the right. It's this little button. I believe you can also right click the line and do normal or construction. The hotkey is X if you like using hotkeys. So you see we have like half the gear profile. One of the strategies I use when I CAD is I just kind of like throw out a bunch of lines and circles, just kind of generally in the area where I want it, and then I dimension it. So that's what I did here, right? I made this circle and then I just threw out a couple lines, and then I'm gonna go and constrain everything. So yeah, let's go and do that. So I'm using the sketch dimension tool again. I'm gonna set this to 80. It's already 80, but I'll leave it at that. The sketch dimension tool can also do angles, so I can set the angle between these two lines. Let's also set this to 100. And then the last one, I believe, is this width right here. Let's just do 10. And you see, with all these constraints, everything is fully defined, just how we like it. Now, you'll see, oh, okay, you can see it here in the sketch for some reason. But you can see that sometimes you'll have these little icons around your lines and stuff. In this case, there's a perpendicular constraint between this vertical line and this horizontal line. And sometimes when you draw things, Fusion will automatically make these constraints for you, and sometimes they don't. So in this case, I didn't have to add a perpendicular constraint because it was already there. If it wasn't there, I'm just going to delete it real quick. You can see that these lines are still blue because this can kind of rotate wherever. I can make it perpendicular by using these constraints right here. And for whatever reason, let's say I just missed the end of the circle and I wanted this to be there, I can just shift click these two, the endpoint and the circle, and then make it coincident. So you see that, or you kind of saw that Fusion kind of made some of these assumptions for me.
Wait, where'd you get the angle thing from?
It's with the sketch dimension tool. So over here, I can click two lines and then specify the angle between them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you'll see that Fusion can make assumptions and kind of help you out. But you can also do it manually with these. Am I going too fast?
No.
Okay, cool. So now that we have this half profile, I'm gonna mirror it to create a full tooth, right? So right next to this sketch dimension tool is the mirror tool. I'll do the angle constraint in a second. So for the mirror tool, I'm gonna press escape again because I was in the sketch dimension tool. I'm gonna click mirror, and then it'll ask me to select objects and the mirror line. So objects are just like, what do you want to mirror? And then the mirror line is where am I gonna mirror it from? So in this case, I wanna mirror this horizontal line and this diagonal line. And then I'm gonna want it, or I want to mirror it along this construction line. So I'm gonna click this select button, click mirror, or click the line and then press OK. And you'll see this mirrored line, or this mirrored sketch is also fully defined because the original two lines are fully defined as well. If they weren't, you can see both of them are blue, and you can see how if one changes, it'll go with it as well. So again, if you want to see how I did the angle, I went under sketch dimension. I clicked one line, clicked the other line, and then I specified the angle. Cool. So now that we have our full tooth profile, we're gonna copy that profile around a circle. So again, the nice thing about this is that we have one tooth profile that we modeled, and if we change this single profile, it'll change everything else, right? So if we change anything now, like change this to 70, the other half of the tooth is gonna go with it. And then once we circular pattern it, all the rest of them will copy that. So I believe it's under create, and circular pattern is where you find the circular pattern tool. And then we're gonna pattern it along the center, around the center of this circle. So circular pattern under create, I'm gonna highlight the objects being these four, and I'm just gonna do this construction line because I can. And then it's going to ask me to specify the center point, which is the center of the circle. It'll ask me the distribution and how many are quantity. So I'm doing full because I just want them to be evenly spaced around 360 degrees. But if you didn't want that for whatever part of your design, you can specify the angle, or you can have it be symmetric. In this case, I'm doing full, and then I can add more teeth, maybe like 7. I pressed enter on accident. So if I typed 7, you can see it previews 7 teeth. And then once I'm happy with the number, I can press OK. So let's say I want 8. Does 8 overlap? No, it doesn't. Cool. So you see now we have our tooth profiles, and if any of these changed, if I change this to 60, you can see all of them change with it, right? So this is, you know, in my opinion, it's good practice to do stuff like this, because you theoretically could have just designed, or you could have drawn in all of these manually, dimensioned all of them, constrained all of them. But then let's say someone's like, oh, I want this tooth to be taller. Then you'd have to go and change all of them. But for this, you can be lazy. You can change one number, and then all of them will go with it. So yes, good practices.
When I
So
just tried to change that, it didn't do anything. It just like shifted the bottom part up.
So if it shifted the bottom part up, that probably means that you're missing a constraint somewhere.
Okay.
So you can see how all of these lines are black, and that means they're fully constrained. But if you have a blue one somewhere, it means that some of them are missing. How do I make a
Well,
line?
they're
of
like all
construction?
blue. How do I constrain those then? Like
Okay.
the side pieces.
So you need to find like what is causing like the lines to be not fully constrained. So like I first started by dimensioning like the circle, because I'm building off the circle for the lines. And then I like made these are this horizontal line perpendicular to this vertical line. And then, you know, all these points are coincident to each other, like the ends of the lines are touching each other. This end of this line is touching the circle, and then this angle is specified.
Yeah, I think I constrained all of them. It's just they're not black. Like I constrained it in the first one and then copied it symmetrically around the circle. But it's just not black, it's blue. It's like black when I hover my mouse over it, but when I don't, it's blue.
So is your original tooth black?
Only when I hover my mouse over it.
Okay, so it's not fully constrained then.
Okay.
Again, if you can't find it, sometimes it's easier to just like delete the lines and then make new ones. Just because if you delete a line, you can assume that the new line has no constraints. So if you're having trouble finding one that's missing, then sometimes I just restart.
Every time I try changing the dimensions of the construction line, my gear, it kind of rotates over the axis.
Okay. I'm guessing it's because your dimension for your construction line or your construction line maybe wasn't drawn straight. So if your construction line wasn't drawn straight, you can make it vertical by using the horizontal and vertical constraint. So I'll just make another one here. So if your construction line was like this, then if you change this dimension with the others like dimensions kind of following this, it may like mess it up. So
What did you do to constrain like the edge of the ear teeth tooth?
constrain like
Like the right side of
this one.
yeah.
Okay, so the constraint that this line has is the end of this line is coincident to the end of this line, and then this angle is specified here, and then this end is coincident there. So generally my rule of thumb is like you need like at least like 3 things or 3 constraints constraining something. For circles, it's sometimes 2. But generally you are looking for 3 constraints for every line or every feature that you might have. Like in this case, like this line here, it's horizontal, it's perpendicular to this line, and it's like 10 units long. I think it's millimeters. In this case, this one, I guess technically, yeah, it has 3 because this is perpendicular, because this is vertical, and then this distance is 1, and then this length is another. So that's 3. Okay.
Oh, dang it.
Oh, thank you.
So
I have a meeting here, so it's like on this floor. It's like over there. So yeah, I'm done at 7:30 if you want to get dinner after.
dinner sounds great. Okay. I'm gonna finish this sketch here, and then I'm just gonna extrude it. So up here in the top right, I'm gonna finish it, and then I'm gonna extrude it like we've done for past objects. You can see that it hasn't auto-selected anything, and that's because there's multiple closed bodies here. If you wanted to, you could have like gone into the sketch and trimmed each little arc in between each tooth, and then it would have auto like extruded. But in this case, I'm just
Wait, can you go back over extruding?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Again, so you want to make sure you exit your sketch. So there's a green check mark in the top right. and then you extrude it next to the sketch button. So extruding just takes your 2D sketch and then it just pulls it into 3D. So I
Where is
click
that next to the sketch? It's right there. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's up here. In this case, because all of these are closed, you're gonna have to select which ones you want to extrude. So we're just gonna select all of them, clicking around in the circle. And then down over here on the side, you can specify how much you want to extrude it by. Let's do like 10. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe like 20. And then there's a bunch of other options that I went over last week if you weren't here. So start is just kind of where the extrusion starts. So sometimes you draw a sketch, but it's not actually where you want it to start extruding. You can change it here.
How are you viewing it in 3D like that?
Oh, I'm like orbiting around. But like typically it would just look like this. But
Yeah.
if I orbit, which I believe is control middle click. I don't know.
Okay.
I've changed my controls, so I don't remember the standard Fusion ones. Also, if you don't have a mouse, you can use this cube up here and hold it and rotate it like that. But yeah,
It's shift middle
direction.
click. Yeah.
Oh, is it shift? Okay, yeah, there you go. The direction is just kind of which way it's going from the plane that you've selected. For me, I actually like to use symmetric a lot just because it'll give me like a reference plane in the middle if I want to make other like features. But that's kind of like a preference. And you might like you might kind of understand that a little bit more if you start to CAD more. Because sometimes you like having features straight down the middle of your part, and it's easier just to use the symmetric extrude instead of creating another plane. For this, it's distance because I'm just specifying a distance. I just set it to 10 because it's 10 each way. Taper angles 0, setting it to a new body. And I press OK. So we have our gear here. Looks great. But now we want to add this center hole. To set the height constraint, I'm going to go back real quick. You just use the sketch dimension tool, and then you click like, for me, I clicked from the center of the circle to the where I want it to be measured for this horizontal line. Oh, depth of extrusion. It's under distance. But you have to select the profiles first if you haven't, which is like the center of the circle and then the teeth. Okay, so you can see here in the center of this gear, we have a threaded hole. If you look closely, you can kind of see like the little parts of the thread. But if it was just like a standard hole, your instinct might just to be to draw a sketch, draw a circle, and then cut extrude it out. And while this technically works, it's not always the best habit to do it, depending on the scenario, right? A lot of these things are scenario dependent, but for holes and stuff, it's generally a good idea to use the hole tool, and that just kind of comes down to how the part is perceived after you make it, because oftentimes when you design a part, you're not always the same, or you're not always the person manufacturing your part. And because of that, you want to make sure you leave as much information as possible to the person making your part. So while you could cut extrude it, you actually lose a little bit of data when you do that, because when you use the hole tool, you can specify a lot more stuff. You can specify like specific drill bit sizes, like taper angles of the drill bit if that's important. You can also specify like the kind of threads that you want. In this case, we're going to be adding threads. But it's also convenient for the person making it because Fusion has something called CAM built into it. And CAM basically is a program that you use to program the machine to make your part. And if you use the extrude tool and not the hole tool, the CAM the CAM program will perceive it as like a pocket instead of a hole. So if you have any machining background, like basically the machine will think it's a pocket and it'll use an end mill, or it could use an end mill to make the hole instead of a drill bit, which probably would be better in certain scenarios. So I don't know if that made sense to you or to some of you if you don't have machining experience, but just know that like using the hole tool when you want a certain size hole is generally better option. So there's a number of ways we can do it. Just because we drew this on the center, we can just kind of center the hole on our part. But you can also create a sketch and specify where you want it to be with a point. So I'm going to be doing that real quick. I'm going to make another sketch. I'm going to click on the face of the gear. And under create, I'm going to create a point here. And I'm just going to click on the origin. But like, let's say I wanted a hole there. I could place a point there. I could add like a dimension in kind of X and Y. And then when I go to make a hole, I can specify that as a point where I want a hole. But in this case, I don't want that. So I'm going to exit it. So I'm going to select this point here on the center that I drew from the sketch. And then you can see here, like all of this information that you could be losing if you're using like an extruded, a cut extruded sketch, right? So like under hole type, you can see there's 3 different kinds, like for counterbore, countersink, or just a regular hole. Different kinds of taps, how you like specifically want your threads, and then just kind of like the bottom of the hole, where in this case it doesn't really matter because we're going all the way through. So here, this 40 right here, like is specifying depth. This 118 is the taper angle of the drill bit, which is like pretty standard. And then 40 millimeters here is just the diameter of the circle that we're making. So for this assignment, we want a threaded hole. So we can go over here and we want it to be tapped because tapped is just denoting that we want threads. You can see if we scroll down here, there's, again, more information. And this not only makes the life of the machinist easier, but it also makes your life easier because you don't want to model the threads on, on a bolt or a nut, right? So here you can specify like what standard you're using. For me, oops, I exited. For me, I'm using metric. So, there's this isometric profile size here. It'll give you like the this kind of threads, class, all that fun stuff. For distance, because we're going all the way through this, I'm going to set it to all. You'll see that the depth will just change to all. So here, You can specify hole diameter and, oh, that's kind of small. You can specify the hole diameter and the tap size and all that stuff. So as a machinist, this is all important information that you would like to retain. Yeah. So once I'm happy with this, you just press OK. And you can see there are nicely modeled threads there. So yeah. And this is why the timeline is important. Because you'll see here that now that we have a hole here in the timeline, it will tell us that we made a hole. So that's another reason why you might want to use the hole tool. Because if you're going through and reading it and there's just like 30 different extrudes, then it might make your life more annoying when you go to change it. Because if you want to change a hole, you're gonna have to go through all of these sketches instead of just saying, oh, I made a hole here. I'm gonna go through right there. If your hole is only going through half of your gear, did you set the distance to through? Oh, you set it to all. Okay. So in that case, it's probably because your sketch may be drawn in the wrong plane. So you may have, like, for me, like I did a midpoint, or I did a symmetrical extrusion. So if I selected like this like plane when I went to drill the hole, then like it would only extrude that, or it would only cut in that direction and not the other one. So that might be why. To fix that, you want to make sure that your sketch plane is on the face of the gear. So to edit that, I believe you can right click the sketch and click redefine sketch plane, and it'll allow you to specify. So for me, it was here. If I click the other one, it should extrude the other way. I'll do it on the wrong one real quick. Yeah, so if I clicked on the wrong plane, you can see how it's only going through half. I'm assuming that's what happened here. So if I was to change it back by right clicking the sketch in the timeline, defining the sketch plane, and then clicking the face of the gear, it should fix itself. In this case, I selected the opposite face, so it gets mad at me because I think it needs to go the other direction. There you go. Flip direction right here. So yeah. Yes, you should be clicking on the gear face instead of the origin because you want it to start on one end of it and then go through the whole thing. So yeah, that is the next assignment. Again, when you are finished with this, make sure to screenshot the whole thing, including the timeline, because the timeline will show me which tool you're using, right? Because if you just did an extruded cut or extruded negative extrusion for the hole, then that's deemed incorrect for this assignment. So yeah. Again, we're just trying to teach you good practices here. So use the hole tool when you need it. Is everyone good here? Can I move on to the next one?
Andrew, does my timeline just jacks out sometimes? Do you know why that happens?
Do you want to describe the
Um,
timeline like breaking?
well, it just is black. Like I can share a screen, share with you.
Do you think you can send a screenshot? I mean, it could be that your computer is just lagging. but it's kind of hard to tell. If you could take a screenshot and like send it in the Discord, we can try and troubleshoot this.
All right, I'll send a screenshot. Yeah, it happens random times, but I'll try.
Okay.
Thank you.
But yeah, if that continues to happen, we can work after class to see what's going on, and we can try and fix that. But yeah. This next assignment will take a little bit longer, so I'm just going to start that now. Again, this is recorded, so if you didn't get this whole gear thing, you can go back and watch it later, or you can ask us about it. So again, creating a new design. And this time, I'm not going to be starting with a sketch. So you can see in some cases, you don't want to start with a sketch and you want to start building things around it. In this case, I'm going to be making a bunch of parallel planes to create this body for the hair dryer. You can kind of tell, or you can kind of see how this works. So basically, we're making 4 parallel planes. We're drawing circles on each of those planes, and then we're using a loft to connect them. So a loft will basically make a smooth transition from one profile to another. So you can see from this sketch, there are these circles, and then once you loft it, it creates this smooth curve in between these circles to create our hairdryer body. So to do that, we need to create more planes, because normally we have these 3 planes that we start off with, but we can create more of them if need be. So over here, kind of on the right side, there's a construct button. And if we go under this drop down, there's a bunch of different options for planes and stuff like that. So in this case, I'm going to be using mostly offset planes, but I'll also show you the mid plane just to create our I'll show you the midpoint and offset plane. Yeah, if your computer's like having a not fun time, then yeah, you could create, you can do these later, and you can just follow along. I don't know if Fusion's installed on the iTap computers, but you could definitely try. But yeah, I'm gonna just start with an offset plane. Basically, it's going to create a plane that's parallel to another plane. So for me, I'm just going to select this one here. I want it to be parallel to that one. I'm going to specify a distance. Let's just say like 20. You can see this. If I orbit around, you can see this plane is, the bottom plane is there, and this plane is offset to the point where it's going up. So we want that. Press OK. I'm also gonna unhide these planes here. So if you go on the left side, you can see here under origin, some of these are kind of like hidden. I'm just gonna enable them for now so we can see. I'm gonna create 2 more planes. I'm gonna do 1 more offset, like 100, let's say. Let's do like 40. And then I'm gonna edit the first one right here. Okay, so I made 2 new planes. You can see one is like significantly farther away than these 2. And that's just because I'm gonna show you how to make a mid plane. So for a mid plane, you select 2 of them, and then it just creates one smack dab in the middle. So I've got 4 planes here. And I'm gonna start building my loft. If you're curious where the project instructions are, or like the instructions for some of these assignments are, you can go on the PowerPoint slide, which should be under course material. Can I show the midplane? Yes, I can show the midplane. So the midplane, just like the offset plane, is just under construct, under tangent plane. If you select that, you can select two different planes and it'll create one in the middle. So I'm going to do it again. Construct midplane. I'm going to select this plane here and this plane there. You can see the two selected ones are blue, and then the new one is like this orangey one, orangey yellow one right here. So now that I've made my planes, I can add these circles. So is everyone caught up on the planes? Cool. All right, let's keep going. So I have these planes, and now I'm going to create circles on each one of these planes. So I'm going to make 4 different sketches for each of the planes with a different circle on every single one of them. Keep in mind that the circles are all going to be centered on the origin, just so my hair dryer doesn't look weird and corrupted. How far are my planes? I mean, I just kind of put them at like different heights. Again, most of the dimensions in these classes are just like arbitrary, so you can specify them to however much you want, just as long as the spacing is like somewhat like this. At least if you want something somewhat proportional to what I'm doing. So I'm making a sketch, top left, selecting the plane. For me, I'm starting on this bottom plane here, and then I'm going to be working my way up. He's making more circles. So I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to click on the origin, make sure it's nice and centered. I'm going to dimension this. Let's see. Maybe let's do like 30. And okay, it's fully defined. I'm happy. I'm going to finish this sketch and make another one. Close, please. Cool. Okay. Making another sketch right here on the next one above. I'm going to make this one a little bit larger. So let's do maybe like, oops. How about we do like 50. I'm going to finish this sketch. I'm going to make another one on this plane. Again, I'm just working up the planes. Let's do 35. And then one more. Just to be different, I'm just gonna flare this a lot. Maybe not that much. Just do 40. Okay, so you can see here that I've made 4 different sketches on 4 different planes. One of your planes isn't showing up. It's probably the origin plane, so you have to show it here. In my case, it's the XZ plane, but you want to make sure this eyeball is on. If one of your other ones is disappearing, you can go under construction and hide or unhide the planes here. How do you select different planes to create sketches? So you just want to make sure whenever you're creating a sketch, it'll ask you to specify a plane, and you want to just like click on it. You need to make sure that you're creating 4 separate sketches, because you can't make like these 2 circles on different planes in the same sketch because it's 2D. So you see here, there's 4 sketches in my timeline because I created 4 circles, and they're all on different planes. Its visibility is overridden. I've never heard of that before. I might have to talk to you after class about that. That's kind of strange. If it's the origin one, it's probably because you need to like unhide the origin first, to be able to see these. Oh, is that why? Oh, that's probably why. Yeah. So for the origin one, you need to open like the eyeball here because it's just like it's hiding the whole folder. So if you try to show one of the things in the folder, it's not going to work. Anyways, we have these circles, and now we're going to create a loft. So we've done sketching and extruding and revolving, but now I'm going to create a loft. So under the create function, there's this loft. Again, when you hover over it, you kind of see what it does. Under profiles, I'm just going to select each circle. And I'm going to select it like going up, because if I selected it in like a different in a different order, then it would make it look weird, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, let's yeah. So like in this case, you see I like selected it out of order. So it like lofts to this middle one and then it goes down and then back up. So you can see that like the order does matter when you are making these. So again, I'm just going to make it again and do it in correct order. Oops. Selecting them all the way up. And you can see it creates the body or the head of the hair dryer. So
Yo, what tool was that?
that was the loft tool. So oops. Under create and loft, it'll create or it'll give you this pop-up and you want to select the profiles in like a linear matter, if that makes sense. So we have this hair dryer here, but it's kind of hard for air to go through. So to do that, or to make air go through, we're going to hollow it out. We're going to hollow it out with the shell command, I believe. So if we go back to the PowerPoint here, you can see we're going to shell and fillet the outer edge of the tip. So I believe, oh yeah, here it is. So here, right next to the fillet tool is the shell tool. And that'll basically, it'll allow you to select a face and then it'll hollow out everything inside a body, while leaving like an even perimeter around everything, in which you specify. So for here, I'm going to click the shell tool again next to the fillet tool and click this top face. And then it's going to ask me to specify the inside thickness. So it's basically asking you how far in am I going to go and like how much wall am I going to leave left. So let's say, oh, that's too much. So if I type in 3, you can see from this edge to this edge, it should be 3 millimeters. Again, you can change it. I don't know, let's set it to 2. You can see the wall thickness has gone down. And if we look inside, you can kind of see that it hollows out the whole head of this hair dryer. So that is good. Direction is inside because we want to hollow out the inside. So I'm going to press OK. Sweet. So now we have this hair dryer, or the head of the hair dryer. It kind of looks like a vase. But now we're going to create a handle for it. Oh, wait, I forgot to fillet it. So next to the shell is the fillet tool. I'm going to select this outer edge. Again, I'm going to specify that I'm selecting this outer edge and not the face, and you'll kind of see why later. So select the outer edge and not the face, and then specify the size of your fillet. So I'm going to do 0.5 millimeter, just because I don't want that much. But if you click on the face, you're going to run into some problems later, and I can explain that in a little bit. So we have this hair dryer head. Now we're going to make the handle. So to do that, we're going to create another offset plane, and then create a cylinder. So, oh wait, actually, can I do this? Pretty sure. No, I can't. I forgot. Okay. Offset plane. I want the handle to kind of go down this direction. So I'm going to select this plane right here. This distance. I'm just going to set it to, in my case, it's -40. You can kind of see how this plane is like hanging off of the body, but it's okay. We will fix that when we extrude it. I'm just going to make it a little closer. So I'm going to offset it by 30 in this case. Again, these numbers are arbitrary. I'm going to create a sketch using the new plane that we just made. And now I'm going to create the handle. So I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to dimension it. And I'm dimensioning it away from the origin in this case because I want it to be kind of in this general area. Maybe like 30. And yeah, 30 seems good too. And you'll notice here that this circle is blue, and it's because it's not fully constrained, right? So it may have looked like it was in the spot where I wanted it to be, which it was, but because it's not fully constrained, it's not blue. So we need to specify for this center point of the circle to be vertical to the origin. So I'm going to do that real quick. And when I do that, I click vertical and I click the 2 points. You can see it snaps to where I wanted it to be, and now it's black. So that's good. I like that. I'm going to finish the sketch, and then I'm going to extrude it. So finish sketch, extrude. And for this, we're going to have it be 2 sides. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it extrude into here to connect it and then extend it out to be the full handle. So extent type, distance. For this first direction, you can see when I click on this distance, the arrow is highlighted in blue. I can have it set to object. And the cool thing is if I select that, it will like wrap around the body or the head of the hair dryer evenly without puncturing, like, or just going through. So I like that. I'm gonna leave that as object. And then for the other direction, I'm just gonna specify it by distance, just because it'll allow me to control the length of the handle. Oh, that's not enough. Okay, so I'm gonna set that to 80. Under the operation, I want it to be set as join because I want these two to be one body. So it's set to join, which was selected automatically. And then I'll press OK. So here's our body, our handle and our head. To make it nice, the end of the handle, I'm gonna chamfer it. A chamfer is very similar to a fillet, but instead of it being round, it's just like an angle. Typically, a chamfer is 45 degrees. So I'm going to chamfer this here, specify the size. That is too big. Let's do this. Let's do like 5. So that looks good. So now we have our hairdryer handle and head. I'll show you something kind of cool. So let's just say, for example, I wanted this inside to be hollow along with this, right? And we've already used the shell operation to shell out this part of the hairdryer. But let's say, I don't know, you wanted to put like electronics or something in this handle, so you need to hollow it out. You could do it with another operation, but you can also utilize your timeline and move things around. So the cool thing about your timeline is that you can edit it, and depending on the order in which you modeled something, it can change the outcome of your part, right? So in our case, we created this loft and then we shelled it. But if we move the shell to after we created all these features, it will change this part. So if you go into the timeline here, I found the shell. You can hold it and you can drag it along your timeline, right? So you can see like this little bar is moving and I'm dragging it. And when I do that, if I look inside, you can see the body or the handle of the hairdryer is now hollowed out. So I just did that. I mean, I didn't do any additional work here. All I did was just moving something in the timeline. So I'm gonna put it back real quick. So the reason why I was specifying here that you want to specifically do the outer edge and not the face is because when you move things in the timeline, you can't move something when it's when something after it is dependent on a feature, right? So if I delete this, if I deleted that fillet and I made it on this face instead of the edge, this inner edge here wouldn't exist without the shell. And because of that, I won't be able to move the shell beyond the fillet, right? If I try to do that, it just won't let me. Or if it does, it breaks it. Oh, wow. Fusion's actually smart. It didn't do that before. So you can see here, now that I've shelled it out, it deleted the original fillet. But sometimes it will just throw an error and get mad at you. So, oh, it's still there. Okay. So that's why it's important to specify exactly what you want when you're modeling things. Because sometimes it may not do the thing that you want it to. Create the fillet again. And again, I'm going to move the shell. And now everything is hollowed out again. Is it okay if you use 4 planes instead of 3? I mean, there should be 4 planes if you include the origin, but if you used 5 planes and you including the origin, that's fine. Could I go over the handle part again? Okay, yeah, I will. So the other thing about the timeline is that you can go kind of like back in time, right? So in this case, like you want me to go over the handle, instead of deleting everything, I can just slide this gray bar at the end of the timeline, and then it'll kind of go back to undo or like kind of hide all the features I did after it, right? So for the handle, I created a plane here. I created an offset plane just similar to the ones from the beginning, but instead of going vertically, I had it go horizontally in this direction. I had it offset outside of the body of the hair dryer, or the head of the hair dryer. Right here, I then created a sketch on that plane, created a circle centered along this axis, and then I extruded it both ways. Is it okay if our hair dryer looks derpy? Yes, that is very much okay. I've seen hundreds of derpy hair dryers, and that's totally fine. For this extrude command, this one's a little bit more complicated. So you can see that I've asked it to extrude in 2 different directions. So you can see this arrow and that arrow. The arrow going towards the head of the hairdryer was set to object, and then I selected the body of the hairdryer, or the head of the hairdryer. And then for the other side, I set it to an arbitrary number to give it that handle shape. And then after that, I chamfered it with modify chamfer right here. Here you just specify the size of the chamfer, just like a fillet. You select the edge and it will chamfer it for you. And then here you can see I dragged the shell command, so now the inside's hollow. Does that make sense, Lewis? I can go over it again later if you need more help.
No, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sweet. Okay. So for the last part of this, I believe it is making the wire of the hair dryer. So with that, or to do that, we're going to create a sweep. And in this case, the sweep isn't really going to be fully defined just because, you know, this wire is kind of like an organic shape, so we don't have to worry about it too much. So to make a sweep, basically what you do, it's kind of similar to a loft in the sense that you draw like a certain profile, but instead of drawing multiple profiles on multiple faces or planes, you have that one profile follow a path. So you can see here, we have a circle here, and then there's this line sticking out of it, and then circle gets kind of extruded along that line that we create to create our wire. So now let's make it. So to do that, we're going to create two sketches here. So first, I'm going to create a sketch on the bottom of the hairdryer, and then I'm going to create another sketch kind of perpendicular to that. So again, create sketch. I'm going to click on this face. I'm going to draw a circle. And I want it to be concentric with this one here. So I'm going to use the concentric constraint. I'm going to click these two. You can see it snaps. I'm going to specify diameter here. I think maybe 6 looks good to me. I'm going to finish the sketch to create another one. So we have that sketch there. I'm going to create another sketch. And it's going to be on this plane. So you can see how this plane cuts straight through the middle of the hairdryer, right? And again, it's because of, where we chose to draw certain things from the beginning, right? He drew the head of the hairdryer straight from the origin. So everything is centered along that. And then we drew this sketch for the cylinder and the handle centered along that. So we already have a plane going straight down the middle, right? And like if you didn't draw it that way, that's fine. But you might have to add more planes to kind of get the sketch where you want it to be. So when you're designing things, strategizing where your plane is going is definitely something you might want to think about. So here, I'm selecting this one, that plane right there. You see it'll snap here, and now I can start drawing my line. Something that might be useful to you is something called projections. So if you ever want to pull a dimension off of a feature that already exists and take it into your current sketch, you can use it by projecting it onto your sketch. So I believe the hotkey is P. If you press P, it'll ask what you want to project. In this case, I want to project this circle onto my sketch so I can, draw the line off the middle of this circle, or just so it can go off from the center. And because of the plane that we're working with, that circle will actually turn into a vertical line. So if I do that, I'm going to hide this body real quick so you can see. Projected lines are in purple because you can't dimension these these projected lines because they have already been defined by one of your previous features. So they're just represented as purple lines. I'm going to show my bodies again by clicking the eyeball over there, and I'm going to start drawing the wire. For me, I kind of like to do a combination of like lines and arcs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a line going straight out from the center. I'm going to draw it not perpendicular, just to show you.
Can I just use a spline?
Yeah, I'll probably just use a spline too. But I'm just going to create a line first to make it nice and even. So I'm going to set these as perpendicular, goes out straight, and then I'm going to use this spline right here. So I'm going to click on the end of this, and the spline makes like a nice smooth curve, which is nice. And I'm going to just press the check mark once I'm finished. You can kind of see that like this is an extreme angle and like kind of unnatural for like a wire to bend. So I'm going to shift click on both of these, and I'm going to make it tangent You can see that now it creates a smooth transition from this straight line to this curved spline. So I'm not going to worry about fully defining the spline too much, just because this is an organic shape and it's okay. So with that, we have the 2 sketches necessary to create our sweep. So under create, right above loft is the sweep. And you can kind of see what's going on here. There's that circle, and then there's a line, and then you can see it gets kind of extruded along that line. So there's a profile and a path for a sweep. The profile in this case is the circle, and the path it's going to follow is this line. So I clicked on profile, selected the circle, clicked on path, I clicked this line, and it should make us a wire. Gonna press OK. And there we go. Here's our hairdryer. Does anyone have any questions? I guess you don't. Okay. I will be sticking around after class if you need help. But now that this is done, I'm just gonna go over your homework. Because this homework, in my opinion, is one of the hardest homework assignments of this class. So I want to make sure all of you kind of know what's going on for this. So this homework assignment is to create an extrusion profile. So extrusion or these kinds of extrusion profiles are pretty common when you're making things. If any of you have like an Ender 3 3D printer, like the stuff is made out of it. Actually, here, I can grab one real quick. 1 second. Okay. I don't know if you can see me very well, but here is like this is a 2020 extrusion. So, it's 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters. And if you look at this profile, and I go to the next slide, they're very similar. And the reason why they're shaped like this is so you can add something called T-slots into it. So I don't know if you can see, but there's a little like special nut that's shaped like a T. And then it'll allow you to put a bolt through it and secure different pieces to it. So in this case, I have like this little elbow piece connected to this extrusion. And then if I use another 2020 extrusion, I can butt it against here and use a T-slot or a T-nut to secure it. So just a little fun fact for you, kind of what you're making today or for homework. We're basically asking you to model this T-slot extrusion, or so there's a couple of dimensions here. I will note that these aren't all the dimensions that you need to create this part. So on the next slide, I have kind of all the dimensions that you need. This was drawn up in a different software, so you don't like just screenshot this and like submit it. But this kind of gives you like a hint into how I would design this, right? Specify curve radius. You can use the dimension tool for the curve radius. Where was I? Oh, yeah, how I design things. So you can see here, instead of like drawing the whole extrusion profile, you can draw part of the extrusion profile, you can mirror it, and then you can pattern it, right? Just kind of like what we did for the gear assignment, right? So in this case, you can see here, I drew half of the profile here, I mirrored it here and then I patterned it around, right? You don't see the mirror in the pattern, but you can see where this is going. You can also see that I utilize construction geometry to kind of make things easier. So because extrusion profiles are square, I made a mini square going from the center to the edge, right? So I set this horizontal line and this vertical line to be equal. So you see there's this 2.9 here, but there's no 2.9 here, but it's fully defined, right? So that shows, these two are equal. And then I drew all the sketches inside of it. Another tip that I have is that it might be a good idea to simplify the geometry first, get it all fully defined, and then add more complexity later, right? So what you could do is you could just create this line as vertical and ignore this kind of diagonal line here. You can get rid of all of these circles here or arcs, and then just draw them as straight. And if you do that, it might make your life a little bit easier when fully constraining it. And then you can go back and then add that extra complexity later. The trim tool will be your friend on this assignment, especially with these arcs. So I highly recommend you use that. But yeah, make sure you only use the dimensions that you see here and only use them once, right? So for a lot of things here, there are things that are equal to each other, like all the radiuses on these small circles are all the same. So you can set them equal to each other instead of, specifying 0.1 for all three of them. Like that's the main thing I'm looking for, right? I want you to make sure you utilize these dimensions only one time, because it'll show how you know how to use constraints, right? The rest of the constraints will be geometric constraints that you've learned today. And if you utilize them properly, you shouldn't have to use a lot of dimensional constraints. And again, the reason being is that if you have all those geometric constraints, you get the general geometry down. And then if you needed to make adjustments later, you can just change one or two of these numbers to change the whole profile to be, nice. But yeah, we're butting up against 7:30. So I'm gonna let you all go. I'm gonna hang out for a little while longer to help anyone who might need it. But with that, you're free to go. Again, please fill out the attendance forms, because again, if you get over 90% attendance, I will bring food for the last class. So please fill it out. But yeah, thank you for being here on Tuesday, and I'll see you next week.
I have a quick question.
Yeah,
I
what's
saw
up?
the homework, like the Google Docs, they give you a certain amount of dimensions, and this one gives more. Do we need to
Yes.
incorporate all of these dimensions or just the ones in Google Docs?
So you should go off of the one on the PowerPoint slide that I have
Okay.
displayed now, because the one on Google Docs is, I believe it's this one,
Yes.
but it's missing some numbers. So use this one, because if you don't use it, then something's going to be blue, and you don't want it to be blue.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, I also have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
How do you make the line from the hairdryer wire? How do you turn it into like an actual wire out from the line?
Oh, how did I like make it solid?
Yeah.
Okay, so to do that, you want to create a sweep. So you have the two sketches, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back. So if you go under create, right above the loft tool that we used earlier, there's the sweep command. It wants you to select the profile and the path. So, oh, it hid the sketches. unhide. Okay, so the profile is kind of what gets extruded, and then the path is where it gets extruded. Go away. So in this case, the profile here is the circle that we made. I'm going to click on the circle, and then I'm going to click on select for path. I'm going to click path, and then it should create your wire.
Got it. Thank you.
For homework, do we have to submit the hairdryer as well? Yes. So for homework submissions, you just go in the Google form, and it'll ask you to upload. It'll ask you to. Oh, I can't see it unless I continue. It'll ask you to upload screenshots of everything. So you can see in the rubric, it'll tell you which assignments we did. So today is the constraining assignment, the gear assignment, the hairdryer assignment, and then this homework. So you want to submit them all at the same time. So yes, submit your hairdryer.
Could you go over the one of the constraint problems?
Yeah, sure. Which one?
The dimension number 3 to become 2, the radius of 2, I think.
Oh, this one, the third one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll do it again. Okay, so it should look like this from the start, right? So, oh wait.
Oh, sorry. I understand it. Sorry, I thought I was making a dimension for 3 to become like number 2, but it's just making the
Yeah,
radius
So
2 millimeters.
this symbol is like 2. I think it's in inches. So this
Oh
symbol is
yeah.
like diameter. So you specify the diameter to be 2.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I share a picture in the homework chat because I couldn't put a screenshot here, but I have the same problem. Like it doesn't show my timeline. It's all black. Like I did exactly what you mentioned, but the timeline is black. I resized the window. It didn't go
Oh.
away. Yeah.
Oh wait, that
But
is
it,
just like black. What in the heck?
yeah, but I can tell there's a there's timeline there because if I scroll through my mouse
Yeah.
next to it, you could see it, but it just doesn't show.
That's really weird. I mean, it might just be your computer like complaining that, I mean, I
Oh,
don't know
could
what,
be.
like, would you like consider your computer to be like relatively powerful?
It's no, it's a light ultrabook, so might be the case
Oh,
too.
yeah. Okay. I don't know if you have like other programs running, but like CAD is usually pretty intense on your computer. So like, if you have like Google Chrome with a bunch of tabs open, it might slow your computer down when you're running Fusion. So if you can, like, run a minimal amount of supporting programs. I don't know if your computer might need to be restarted, but sometimes, restarting either the program or the computer might fix that. But it seems like functionally, it seems okay, but it seems like it's having a display issue. So I would just like maybe restart the program or something.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'll check it
Mhm.
out.
Yeah, let me know if you still have that issue, because we can
Okay.
see if there's a way to fix that further.
Thank you.
Can you go over how to chamfer things again?
Chamfer? Yeah. So to chamfer things,
Hey Andrew, can I interrupt you for a second?
yeah, what's up?
I gotta head out, but I'm gonna be sending you a couple messages about people with attendance stuff.
Okay.
Just questions about that. So I'll send you like the screenshots of what they said and stuff.
For sure. Yeah.
All right, have a good night.
All right, see you later. Okay. Amber. Let's see. Yeah, so if you go under the modify tab, you can see there's the fillet option, but also the chamfer option. So you want to click that, and it works just like a fillet. You just select the edge or the face that you want to chamfer. So in this case, I want this edge. You specify the size. So I think I put 5, and then it should work.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Mhm. Do you have any other questions? No problem. Have a good night.
Hey Andrew, is there anything else you need from me, I guess? Like any other like work or anything I can do? 'Cause yeah, was just wondering.
I mean, we're good right now. I mean, unless you want to start grading assignments. If you want to grade assignments, we can grade.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I was actually talking about that with Frederick, and we were saying like we'd both be interested in kind of like splitting up some work to like grade. So let me know.
Sure. Yeah.
any-
I mean, if you want, I can run you through how to grade stuff like right now.
Yeah, sure, that'd be good. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna guess that he fell asleep or he's just not here. So,
Oh, sorry, I was just doing my work. I was just on Zoom. I'll
oh,
leave.
okay. No problem.
Okay, bye.
See ya.